Next in the queue, we have Volpes. How do I pronounce your name, dude?
Volpes.
Volpes.
That's a difficulty Alex has is pronouncing names. So.
It's true. I wasn't made for that.
You're Romanian and that's Latin, man. What are you talking about?
I don't know how he wants to pronounce it. Like, I don't know, is it the Pokemon, like Vulpix, or like Volpes? Fine.
You don't get to choose. You pronounce Latin correctly, and he could lump it if he doesn't like it.
Fair enough. What's
I'm going to call him Wolpus just to.
Yeah, I was gonna say that, Father, as an aside. Like the classical pronunciation makes the name a lot more goofy.
Yeah, Wendy.
Yes. Look, so this is probably a double-barreled question. Piggybacking off the last caller, who mentioned Moses as a murderer. In my understanding, with the Decalogue, the Ten Commandments, thou shalt not kill is understood to be in reference to unsanctioned killing. So that's how I understand murder is unsanctioned killing. I suppose what trips me off about Moses being described as a murderer is that, like, he was a prince of Egypt, and I know he kills the abusive overseer, and like technically with the way Egyptian society worked and the royal family basically being gods, wouldn't that be within his like governmental remit to be able to just kill someone? Or like, I'm guessing they didn't have, you know, habeas corpus or presumption of innocence and trials and all that stuff. So yeah.
So the issue there is, do you know what the word for Egyptian is in Egyptian?
No.
It's human. Meaning the Hebrew he was protecting was not one.
Oh, okay.
So
that's pretty crazy.
Yes. It's the equivalent from the Egyptian perspective at that point in history of if I saw someone kicking their dog and I went over and killed them to protect the dog.
Oh, okay.
That like someone might say, well, yeah, it's horrible he was doing that to the dog. You should have told him to knock it off, right? But you don't go and murder him, right? A human to protect a dog.
Yeah, for some destruction of property crime. Yeah.
Okay.
So by Egyptian standards, an unjustified killing, but by God's standards, seems to be a justified killing.
Right. Yeah, we would see that as defense of other because we think all humans are human.
Yeah.
But that's literally that is St. Paul. That idea did not exist in the world before St. Paul.
Yes.
In Rome, that's why Jews were crucified. Right. If you've ever wondered why St. Peter was crucified and St. Paul was beheaded, it's because St. Paul was a Roman citizen. So it was illegal to crucify a Roman citizen, right? Because it was such a horrible way to die.
Yeah.
But under Roman law, Jews were non persona. In Latin, they were non-persons, and therefore could be executed in that way.
Yeah. You see this? Yeah. Sorry. Go ahead, Father.
When St. Paul, like Acts 17, is talking about from one man, God made all the people of the earth, right? This is revolutionary thinking. He redefines the word nature as it's used in terms of human nature.
Thank you, Father. That links back to your prior comments that I've heard about how pagans understood nomos as nature between different people groups, like Athenians having a different nomos to, you know, Spartans or something like that. I suppose as a follow-up question then, is there a kind of nuance that we can use, because all humans were created through Christ and we share the same nature? were pagans kind of using nomos to kind of describe what they saw as kind of differences amongst inhabitants of different city states or different people groups? Like, was it a descriptor that they were trying to articulate? Or
I think you're meaning feces in this case, in the nomos.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Nomos refers to like law and the cultures surrounding it, right?
Yeah. So there were debates in Greek thinking about what was according to feces and what was according to nomos. Right. There were certain things, and that's a kind of different use of feces. But feces, so for example, Aristotle, the word feces starts showing up in Greek in the 5th century BC. There's a really good recent dissertation about this, but I won't go too far down that rabbit hole. But basically, the term feces, when it first starts being used in Greek philosophical circles, is based on their discovery of heredity. They had discovered the idea that, right? So like when you look at Genesis, we have the story of Jacob where he's like having the sheep look at sticks in order to determine what they will look like.
Yes,
right?
the spotted ones and the
right.
Yeah.
Right. And so there wasn't until a certain period, right? They discovered heredity. Like, no, you could breed, you could take one that looks like this and one that looks like that and breed them together and consciously produce. Right. So they kind of discovered heredity. And then, of course, they apply that to humans. Right. And so what that caused within the Greek thinking was not just, they already had the idea, feces had already been used just to describe different types of people. Like, this person is a philosopher, this person is a nobleman, this person is a merchant, this person is an athlete, this person is a slave. Right. But when you add heredity to that, now, not only is it that you're a slave, but it's not that you're a slave through happenstance or you just happen to be the type of person who needed to be enslaved. It's that, well, you're, as Aristotle will say, you have the nature of a slave. You will pass that on to your children. Right? You will marry another slave. You will pass on your children. And noblemen likewise. Philosophers likewise. Right? That's why you find some of the stuff you find in the Republic about who's allowed to have children and with whom, right? In Plato's Republic. So that idea is a very different idea of nature. And this is actually what really produces the whole problem with the non-Chalcedonians, is that St. Cyril primarily used feces in that Greek philosophical definition. That's why he says there's one nature of God, the Word incarnate. He's trying to say Christ is one person, right? Because nature corresponded to an individual in that philosophical usage, whereas Chalcedon was using it the way St. Paul uses the word feces, which is feces is what all humans share, every single human, so that Chalcedon can say that Christ is consubstantial with us, homoousios with us, according to our humanity, right? That's a different use of the term nature. And so our non-Chalcedonian friends are unable to bridge that gap between the two usages of the term feces, right? To get at the underlying theological truth.
Okay, yeah, that's cool. I didn't expect to get that aspect of Chalcedon. I haven't heard that one before. So, no,
that was a gem, honestly. That made me sit up. Yeah,
make a clip out of that. Yeah.
I suppose then, like, we understand all humans are created through Christ and we share the same nature. I suppose this might be a bit of a prickly question. Then, because in the empire, in Byzantium, they refer to non-Christian peoples as barbaroi. So there is there's some distinction, like they refer to them as barbarians. So is there a kind of nuanced orthodox way that we can understand, I suppose, the differences and particularities of between different people groups in like a healthy way that isn't, going into, weird 20th century, racial theories and stuff.
Well, so if you trace the history of the term barbari, and I'll forgive you your Erasmian pronunciation, because I'm not Greek. The Greeks will never forgive you for that. But that term actually comes from, that's what the Greeks thought non-Greek speakers sounded like. They sounded like bar, 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 bar when they talked. It's sort of like the adults on Peanuts. Like they thought it sounded like goofy gibberish. So originally that was a term for non-Greek speakers. And so the idea of a Greek nation actually developed after the usage of that word. It was originally a linguistic term more than a nationalist term. It mostly gets applied, I can't say always because I have not read all of Byzantine literature, but it mostly gets applied to Byzantine literature to refer to non-Christians. So that is a subtly different nuance, right? They call the Latins, right? And the Franks and stuff. But when they're talking about barbarians in Western Europe, they're usually talking about like the Aryan Goth tribes. They're talking about like the Northern Germans before they're converted, and everyone to the east of them are barbarians, right? That's, who are not Christians. And so that is more that marker, because you'll even see it. There are a few hymns where the term barbarian is used and it's contrasted with the race or the nation of Christians. Right? Because of that usage. And so the term nation is so loaded because of nationalism, right? And the idea of the nation state, that is a very modern idea, right? The idea of a genos, of a people, is the older understanding, right? That there are peoples. And going back to the term used before, that different peoples have, each people has a nomos. They have a way of life. And it's actually the way of life that constitutes the people. So even when, Judea is basically a Roman province and Jewish people are scattered all over the world, people of the first century are using the term Judaismos to refer to people who practice the nomos of the Judeans, right? Meaning the Torah. That's where Judaism comes from in our modern usage. And the whole idea of Judaism as this way of life / religion over against a nationality. And so that kind of is where the term race of Christians is coming from, on one hand. But on the other hand, St. Paul is really clear. This is the core of what's at the dispute in Galatians and these kind of things is do the people from the nations, from the 70 nations, the Gentiles, as it's usually translated, do they need to abandon their nomos? So do the Greeks need to abandon the Greek nomos and instead follow Judaismos, follow the nomos of the Judean people? Or can they be Christians and continue to follow the Greek nomos, albeit Christianity will transform the Greek nomos? Right? So that now, I use the Greeks as an example because this is a place that successfully happened. Now, part of what it means to be Greek is to be an Orthodox Christian. Right? Completely secular Greeks. Right? Get baptized and married and stuff, right? Get their kids baptized in the Orthodox Church, because it is now so ingrained in the nomos of the Greek people that even if they don't believe any of it, right, they still, right, it's wed together. The pagan Greek nomos no longer exists. And there is not yet, and hopefully never will be, a secular Greek nomos. Although there are people wanting to go that way. But so and so that's so like when we talk about America becoming Orthodox, what that would really mean is not just a certain percentage of people becoming Orthodox Christians. It would mean the Nomos of the United States being transformed. Right, such that part of American identity is being an Orthodox Christian. And that actually takes longer than converting people. Right? Russia converts in 988, but it took several centuries after that for the Russian Nomos to be transformed. Right, and that's why they were still at first for first couple centuries they're still using Greek liturgics. They're still using Greek, right? They're still doing all the Greek things. There wasn't a Russian Orthodox identity yet. Just because everyone had been baptized, that didn't just automatically, right? That transformation occurred.
Okay, that's good, and that gives me a lot to probably think about and chew on, Father Stephen. So I'm kind of hashing out, I suppose, what floats around now and what passes for the definition of a people and a nation now, and I'm trying to kind of feel my way back into, I suppose, a proper ancient understanding of it from the church's perspective. So that gives me some stuff to think about. So I appreciate it.
Cool. Thanks for calling in, man.
All good. Christ is risen.
Truly, he's risen.